I think we have to make a resume of what we talked about yesterday morning. Is it loud enough? Am I talking loudly? That's better. We started talking about education. How to educate one's son or daughter to face this very ugly world, which is becoming more and more dangerous. What do we mean by that education? To help the child to conform to the pattern of the present existing society, or face the future in a different manner, different dimension. That's one point we raised yesterday morning. The other was to educate oneself so as to educate the child. What do we mean by that education? What is one educating for? To conform or to transcend the present situation and go much further. That's another point we talked about yesterday. The other was also human consciousness is more or less similar to all the consciousness of mankind. Our consciousness, one's particular consciousness, is not different from the consciousness of that person who is 1,000 miles away or nearby. Because all human beings suffer, go through a great deal of anxiety, sorrow, and all the travail of life. And so we came to the point that we are actually not individuals. I know most of people will object to that. And also we said, if there is a change in consciousness of a person, it affects the whole of consciousness of mankind. And also we talked about not seeking a cause. Like the analysts, they're always searching for a cause and trying to alter the effect. The universe has no cause. And whether human beings can live without a cause. That's where we left off, if I remember rightly. If I have not said all the things which we discussed yesterday, please you correct it, you join in. Right? Do we proceed from there?
The word time was mentioned on a number of occasions.
Oh yes, oh yes. Do we need time to change, to transform ourselves, which is to study ourselves gradually, altering ourselves bit by bit, or not thinking in terms of time at all? And is there a possibility of immediate freedom from condition? That's where we more or less left off.
This poses a great difficulty. It implies that one has to enter into another dimension. That which speaks doesn't seem to have any capacity to enter into this other dimension. The pheasant in the field over there is perfectly capable of flying. It's rather like expecting one to depart into another dimension. This creates an impasse, this question of capacity. What is it that enters the other dimension?
The discussion is open up from here.
I seem to remember some name, but we came yesterday to the end.
I am not the chairman, sir.
Oh, no. But we came to a point where you were talking about attachment and about going into attachment, not with explanations, whys or wherefores, but you seem to intonate or go into that, and I think that's the same sort of statement of the difficulty with this chapter. The difficulty I have too.
Another difficulty, sir, is that we seem to idealize the process of education as a panacea, as a means to salvation. Why do we have to emphasize education?
Why do we have to emphasize?
Education.
That was the subject we chose. We can change the subject, doesn't matter.
No, at least we should define it clearly.
Krishnaji, could I ask that people who ask questions lift their voice and project it, because otherwise the rest of us don't have that.
I had been wondering why you were so much concerned with this matter of change with outside time. And then I thought, well, maybe what you are going to come to is that education is not a process.
No, that's just.
And then I thought, well, what does this mean? And I felt that just as a transformation of consciousness is not likely to happen if one is heavily conditioned and in a bad so-called educational system. It will be difficult for this to happen. And so, correspondingly, if a human being is growing up in loving relationships with, say, their parents and their teachers, based from one instant to the next on understanding and openness of mind, then that state of living, that relationship, it is more likely in that environment that something can happen instantaneously. And it would seem to me to be that true education can in no way be separated from normal, from good living. And that it is, one is part and parcel of the other. And that if the parent or the teacher or any one human being or the other, in relating to another human being, has this loving understanding, then that is all one can do, to see what is there and to exchange one's thoughts and to hope that one will have these instantaneous transformations.
Sir, but I don't lie. I'm a wounded person. I've got so many problems in my life. I hate people. Not personally, I'm just taking as an example. I hate people. I have battles with my wife. I'm selfish. How can I, in that state, love somebody?
You're posing the position of somebody surrounded with all the conditions and problems. What can they do is the question that you're posing.
I didn't quite hear, sir. Speak please.
You're posing the question of a person surrounded with all kinds of problems.
That's
personal
right.
Problems and malfunctions, if you like.
Yes,
And what can they do?
that's the point, sir. That's the whole point.
That's a question.
I would propose, sir, that what such a person normally does is try to short-circuit the education in time by means of prescriptions and prohibitions. This is normally the idea of an educational system for somebody who hasn't enough time to devote to the type of education that Dr. Wilkins was talking about.
If education is to transmit information and knowledge, information and experience, is it not a process of conditioning and therefore inhibiting the growth of the person who is being educated? If on the other hand we consider that the educator is also learning, educating himself simultaneously, then it becomes a lot more encompassing of the process.
So, biologically there is growth, right? So, is there growth psychologically? That's the whole point. Do I become something? To become something involves time
Yes.
and values, comparative existence. To become something involves conflict, time, and all the struggle that one goes through.
Is education to make people become something?
And that's what is happening now. We are taking as it is, not theoretically imagining what should be.
That's why I'm saying that education is not education.
You may not, but it is. So how do we, parents or educators, transcend all that? If that is what is right or true or...
Sir, I'd like to ask, what is order? You often spoke about it, and it seems to me that the question of order is very closely connected with education.
Please answer.
The sort of problem I'm finding, Krishnaji, is that I find the discussion difficult to follow because we seem to be talking at two different levels.
Yes.
Some of us are talking about the individual adapting to the pressures that society puts on him, and others are suggesting that maybe there is a way that as individuals we can influence the way society operates, so that perhaps ultimately we can change it in a way that we more greatly approve. It's this difference between the two levels I find very difficult to reconcile.
Let us stick to one level, sir, then, shall we?
Well, I personally would be more comfortable at one level, but I can see that the two do interact in ways that are unpredictable. We as individuals want to change. We understand certain characteristics of the educational system. We suggest, for example, that the current system of formal education seems to emphasize qualities in human conduct which are divisive and destructive. And from that we therefore decide we want to change this situation. but as individuals, we're not powerless, we're not powerful enough to make an impact on,
That's why, sir,
on big systems.
we said yesterday too, the common ground of all human beings is selfishness, self-centered activity. That's a fact. And education is helping them to become more and more self-centered. Specialists, surgeons, you follow, the whole system is helping helping each human being to become more acquisitive, more self-centered, and act from there. The question is education only encouraging that? And if it is not, is it possible to break through that immediately? That's the question. We are still remaining on the same level, not two levels.
Is there another distinction important? You talk about instantaneous transformation. Now, for the individual consciousness, that's very meaningful. But if you talk about the whole system, social system, educational system, it seems to me one can't expect that to change instantaneously. Only through individual transformations in many different processes and the whole change.
A lot of us are really not sure that self-centered activity or competition is all that bad, because we've seen science prosper on the basis of individual striving. Through competition, we've had tremendous technological success in the world. So this is why there is this question whether competition or self-centered activity is all that bad at the individual level that you're talking about. I don't know if I make myself clear.
Well, one correspondingly, one can say that war is not all that bad, that in history that war has often been a useful instrument of foreign policy. One doesn't support war.
Quite right.
But we also said that competition destroys a person psychologically. I mean, I don't know how you can say that competition makes one, I mean, you may discover something, through competing and driving yourself. But as a human being, I think one becomes destroyed at the end of one's life through that competition. And
The two great powers are competing, America and Russia. And we're all going to suffer for that.
But one of them will benefit.
How?
I don't necessarily believe in this, but I'm just placing that argument that it's so compulsive at times.
So let's be clear, sir. Do we intellectually argue about all this? Or I'm not saying we should not. Or examine the question much more profoundly. As we started yesterday, I've got several children. What am I to do with them? And what am I to do with myself? That's the real question I'm talking about.
Yesterday,
I am selfish. I have a tremendous lot of problems. If I have, I'm talking generally. And my son and daughter have problems too. So how am I to deal with all this?
Sir, yesterday we began talking about the difference between just hearing and knowing some phrase and actually seeing it as a fact.
Yes.
And that the seeing of something as a fact was crucial to what a real education was all about. We just came up to talking about what is involved in this truly seeing something as a fact. When we
So,
pulled away,
all right.
perhaps we could come back to that.
What is, and the idea of what is. Is that it?
Yes, how does one truly see what is? Otherwise, there is no learning, no real learning taking place for my children or for myself.
You spoke also of being aware of attachment,
Louder.
not through looking at all the history of it, the time factor, but seeing it in a way that you equated with insight.
Yes.
The implication of that was that that kind of seeing of something, which is in an entirely different order than the usual, was the factor of change, if I
That's
understand
right.
you correctly.
That's what we talked about yesterday
And
too.
we ended on that note.
Yes.
So could we
Continue with that.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
So we have to go into the whole question of knowledge, right? What place has knowledge in human life? Will knowledge help man to become, to be unselfish, not self-centered? And what place has knowledge in relationship? All implied. Knowledge being, all that. Did I go through all that? Knowledge being experience, whether it's personal or inherited or traditional. From that knowledge which is stored in the brain, in the human mind, and from that knowledge, memory, action. Memory, thought, action. In that cycle we are caught, right? Experience, knowledge, memory, thought, action. This is the chain in which we are, cadre, framework in which we operate.
That's every moment of the day.
What's that?
That's every moment of the day.
Every moment of the day. That's what the computer is doing.
And we've also said that has...
Just let me finish. That's what the computer is doing. Programmed, it can learn, unlearn, create itself a new machine till it reaches ultra-intelligence machine. Right? You know about, I've talked to French, that's why I talk about it glibly, but I don't know sufficiently about it, but I've gone into a little bit. So the computer can outthink man. And we have become like that, machines. And education is apparently to continue in that pattern. Program. I'm a Catholic, I'm a Protestant, I'm a British, I am a scientist, whatever it is. I'm a guru. You follow? The whole thing is that. Now, as we said yesterday, taking one example which is attachment to my wife, to my belief, to my God, to my experience, whatever it is, attachment to my knowledge. Attachment invariably breeds corruption. We've said that. We went into a little bit. And to transcend attachment, is it necessary to find the cause why I'm attached? Which means thinking in terms of time. Time being examining from the storehouse of my knowledge. So I'm repeating the same pattern when I analyze and try to find the cause of something. I don't know if I'm explaining this clearly or not. And as long as I have a cause, that very cause demands not only an effect but an end. Right? So insight, as we talked about yesterday, is not related to time or cause or memory. Having direct perception of it immediately, and that immediate perception acts.
Can we say that that perception looks at the actual thing as it is without going into any derivation? It's what it's doing in that moment in the human psyche.
That's right. That's what we said
Without
yesterday.
any background.
Yes.
The background is unnecessary.
Is that possible? I mean, just a minute. The scientists, the artists, all those people have a partial insight. My statement needs examination, doubt, question. Please let's talk about it, and then we'll go into it.
But that partial insight, isn't it the result of a long preparation?
No.
Because a scientist has years and years of preparation.
That's why it's partial.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
So also in just ordinary, everyday confronting problems, don't most people get hypnotized by the problem in a way that they are involved in it? They cannot look at it in a different way except by trying to go behind it and say, why is it happened this way, it happened that way? This quality of insight is totally different, it seems to me, as you describe it, from the usual thing that goes on. People saying, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that, and there's no insight in that. There is looking at the effect, the action in that moment, but without any changing quality.
So what is the question?
What is the quality of looking that you're speaking of, which you call insight, which differs, it would seem to me, radically from what we all do, which is look at our problems? I mean, there's a psychiatric way of going behind it and trying to understand it and the roots of it and so forth, but without that, most people with problems just stuck with the problem, looking at the problem. Now you're talking about something entirely different.
Take a problem and let's look at it.
May I elaborate on that, Krishnaji? You see, what you said just beforehand is that, for instance, this statement of attachment breeds corruption. Now, you talk about staying with that fact, or staying with that statement, or holding it. Now, that is such a special thing that you're talking about. It's not something simple. It's not something that I feel I can just say, oh, well, you just stay with the fact, because it's something that in fact, is quite foreign to me. To stay with the fact, or to stay with a statement, to hold it in such a way that it becomes a fact.
So that becomes a fact. Let's say I'm violent.
But then one is transformed by that, by the truth of that thing.
Understand? Let's take an example and look at it. I'm violent. My reaction is either to violence, either express it, or various forms of escape from it, or say, why shouldn't I be violent? And indulge in violence.
There's another one too, may I add it?
I add some more.
There's also the reaction of hearing that and saying, yes, I am violent, and seeing that it is partially true, and yet not seeing it so much that it is...
No, wait. I am violent. I examine, I look at the word which may awaken violence, the word itself, which is to recognize from former experiences that reaction which is called violence. Right? And I have been educated not to be violent. Right? It's good not to be violent. So I've got two reactions now, violence and non-violence, not to be violent. Now, which is a fact?
Violence.
Huh?
Violence.
That's the only fact, the other is non-fact.
Well,
Right?
to be educated not to be violent is
Of
a
course,
violence.
of course. I'm coming to that. I have only one fact, which is I am violent. The other is not a fact. And therefore, what I call fact is also part of my education, part of my upbringing, part of my social impressions and pressures and all that, inhibitions, and the whole of it. Now, can I remain with that fact without escaping? Just be with it. That's a fact. I'm violent. Be with it. Don't analyze, don't escape from it. Don't seek the cause of it. Just hold it in your hand and look.
What does that
Can
mean?
we say
sir?
more? Can we say more about that?
Yes.
I
what-
don't know if there's anything more one can say about just being with it and holding it in your hand, but is there anything? Can we look at that,
And how long?
action or
For
inaction?
how long?
So the person who is obsessive or delusionary or consumed with anger, fear, something, is in his sense doing that. Now you're talking about something else. They are in that fear, that delusion, that obsession.
I am not sure they are in that.
Then what?
In that in that state of awareness in which they are frightened, fear, or they're escaping from it, running away, various forms of avoidance of it. May I ask, what is it we are talking about now?
I think we are talking about that particular instant of holding and being with a thing like our violence or our fear. What is the nature of that
Holding.
holding?
I see.
It's the nature of what is we're talking about.
What is?
Yes.
But violence, anger is the way of life. That's the way of life we live.
Yes, that's the way we live. Then what is it you're trying to say?
That's where we have to penetrate.
We're trying to do that now. It says, I am violent or I'm in sorrow. My son or brother or my wife, something happens to them and I'm in sorrow. When there is sorrow, I'm trying to escape from it through comfort, right? I want some kind of comfort because I cannot face my loneliness, right? And I say, why am I lonely? I'm seeking the cause of it. So I see, that is a psychoanalytical process. I don't want to enter into that. I don't want to seek a cause or escape from it or seek comfort from it for sorrow. So I observe that sorrow. Right? I'm living with it. In that living, am I an outsider looking at sorrow, or I am sorrow? You understand the difference? How do I observe sorrow? or violence or fear or even pleasure? How do I observe or be aware of my sorrow? What does it mean? Am I different from that which I call sorrow? Or I am sorrow. I am not different from it.
So sorrow has to observe itself.
I'm just going into shadow. No. Just let's go step by step into it.
Generally, it's the first case.
Huh?
It's the first case. Sorrow is going on, but I am not sorrow.
What do you mean you are not sorrow?
Well, it's going on, but there are other things, or I'm probably something else, or I'm partially that.
Just me. Of course, ordinary life is going on around you, but
I'm not totally that, though.
Why not? Well, so when my son dies, it's a great shock, right? Physical as well as psychological. It takes time to get over that shock. Things are happening around me, but I'm living in a shock. Right? Now, that shock I call sorrow. Right? Now, how do I look at that sorrow? Things are happening, I have to eat, I have to go to the office and so on. Leave all that aside for the moment. How do I observe this sorrow?
Oneself to observe oneself seems to escape all the time, further and further back, from feeling like sorrow or something. It's a continuous escape,
Yes, you want to withdraw from it.
Yes.
So facing the fact.
That's what I'm trying to say, sir. My son is dead. It is a shock to me, which I call sorrow, both physical and psychological. And my reaction to that is to escape from it, avoid it, because it is indicating something tremendous to me, which I'm incapable at the present moment in a shock of not seeing the whole content of that.
So when you say that, stick with it.
I'm coming, slow, patience. I'm in that state, right? How do I look at this feeling?
But Krishnaji, this contradictory feeling, which also comes up so quickly.
I know all that.
But how one is to look at it?
Sir, you seem to be suggesting that to see yourself as different from this sorrow is the first escape, practically.
Yes.
And to see that you are the sorrow is
that
the
is,
beginning.
Sir, that is the point. You are sorrow.
Yes.
Not you are not different from sorrow.
Right. And that might be the beginning of this whole
That is so. Not might be. It is so. You are not different from anger, from greed, from envy and all that. You are that.
But I resist that when you say, I resist that when you say that. I mean, I listen to you and I say, yeah, that is so, but at the same time I resist it. There's a resistance that says...
Because there is resistance because of our education, because of our tradition, of course. I've been told you are different from that. God is different, all the rest of it.
So how do we stop the resistance?
Could it also be that we are not in envy enough?
No, you don't stop resistance, sir. Forget sorrow. Wait a minute. Forget sorrow. What's your resistance? Why do you resist? Don't seek the cause. Why do you resist? I won't put it there. Why? Why means cause. There is resistance, right? Stay with it.
So are you saying, or can we understand from what you say, that the usual way of looking at these things.
It's not what I, no, just a minute. You said what I am saying. I'm not saying anything. Please, just a minute. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying just watch.
Yes, but the way we watch wrongly involves either, as the gentleman said, escape, or the idea of doing something. There
Yes.
is a separation from it. Out of this I want to escape or act or something. That we're
All
looking
that-
for in it, which is away from looking at the facts.
All that arises because there is this division between sorrow and myself. That division is illusory. The fact is I am sorrow.
But sir, well, we're not seeing that. Could it also depend on that we are too asleep in a way?
Huh?
That we have no energy, we are too asleep.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
So we're not really, there's no confrontation because there's no energy to make the confrontation.
As that gentleman pointed out, we resist it, consciously or unconsciously.
I've got the same problem, Krishnaji. I mean, if you say, I am sorrow, I can accept this, that poetically this may...
Not
mean,
poetically.
But rationally it doesn't seem to mean very much.
Oh, yeah. Sir, just a minute. You know what anger is? Anger.
Yes.
Are you different from anger?
I recognize anger as a state of mind, if you like.
It doesn't matter what you call it. It's a reaction, isn't it? Is that reaction different from you?
It's a part of me, it's within me.
You see, you are part of it, all right, admit that. So you're part anger, part envy, part arrogance, part this and part that and part... So you make a whole of that. So you are anger. Right? And you see, this is... Gosh, why we resist this very simple fact?
But when I resist, it's the whole of my conditioning that's at risk.
Okay, then examine your conditioning. Live with your condition. Say, I am conditioned to think that way.
Right.
Look at it, sir.
And anger, but I'm not only anger, I'm also friendliness.
Of course, I said that. You are angry, you are friendly, you are hating, you do all kinds of things. You are all that.
So, is it partly that, first of all, when anger arises, we are not aware of it even. Then we become aware of it, then the separation takes place.
Why should separation take place? I won't use why.
What happens?
Separation takes place. Look at it. What is this? Separation takes place. Thought says, I am different from that which I am looking.
That comes automatically.
Come on.
That comes automatically. That's separation.
So what, sir? What am I to do?
It's automatic from our education.
What?
It's automatic from our education.
So what then? See, we keep on repeating this. Automatic from my education. I'm conditioned that way. I cannot look at it differently. So we keep repeating it.
I wonder if we could go back to this I am sorrow. Now, I think there is a real difficulty there, and some people will say they can see what this means poetically, but that means that in certain other senses it is not, they don't see what it means. Now, is it this way, that what you mean is that you are overcome and at the mercy of the sorrow, that it envelops you, and that you cannot regard it as just part of you? If you take conditioning in general, conditioning is surely essential to human beings' existence. But the trouble with conditioning is that it takes you over and dominates one. And that's when it is the trouble.
So do I accept my conditioning?
I think that one must accept conditioning in one sense.
In one sense, yes.
As a computer, that we must be like computers and have programs, but we mustn't let those programs run us. And that surely is what you are objecting
Just
to.
a minute, sir. I have been programmed for 5,000 years as a Brahmana. I've been conditioned that way. I am that condition. That's what I'm. The condition is not different from me.
You are saying that at every moment of life we continue that condition.
Yes, sir.
And there is a choice that you're opening my mind to that says we don't have to.
The language I speak has conditioned me, right?
Yes.
The clothes, the food, at a certain level, in a certain way, it has conditioned me. But psychologically, I'm objecting to being conditioned. Is it possible not to be conditioned?
But isn't part of the program of that conditioning to protect itself? I mean, isn't that how the resistance comes about, that the conditioning doesn't want itself to be destroyed or put an end to?
Does it protect what?
Itself. Itself. The conditioning protects itself.
A sense of security.
Or, just a minute, does it? Or I am different from my conditioning, and thought says I must protect myself.
Yes, but what is thought?
Oh, well,
Very
gone.
Thought conditioning.
things we're saying, the language, as Professor Wilkins said, we shouldn't be dominated by the conditioning.
Maria, could we stop a minute?
We are.
Could we stop a minute? What is it we're talking about? Let's come back.
Well, we talked about the shock of somebody dying close to you and the sorrow. I'm not even clear that the shock is conditioned.
Sir, just a minute. My son dies, right? Let's start from there. And I'm very attached to him, right? That attachment is born out of various causes. And when he dies, it's a break from that attachment. He is not there to be attached, right? But I've still got the memory of him, and I'm attached to that memory, right? Physically, I'm not. Now he's gone. He's burnt, cremated, whatever you like. Now, but I have the image of him to which I'm attached, right? And I carry that image for the rest of my life. Shall we go on from there? Right?
We've been talking about different categories of emotion, I think, Krishna Ji. We started with the question, what do I do with my violence?
Oh, no, that gentleman wanted, sir, to start, and also
Yes.
Professor Wilkins wanted also to say, let's talk about sorrow, not violence for the moment.
Yes, I thought we were talking by analogy that the two are emotions, and that the same way of dealing with them is to stay with them.
It's not only emotions, the whole content of my memory with regard to my son, and all the memories connected with violence. Right? I don't quite
You seem to be talking about reactions, the world of reactions.
I don't want to enter into reactions for the moment.
You said that the sorrow was the image that you have of the son that memories, the wanting him back, all that sort of thing.
I can't have him back. I may want him, but the memory remains.
Yes, well, I can go with you that far, I guess.
Right. And I mean, you know, so that is the memory of my son being dead causes all kinds of emotional reactions. And I am attached to this memory, right? That memory is going to affect me all my life, which is beginning of corruption.
Why? That's
I'm glad somebody asked why.
Do you mean you've become like a computer, which is a fixed program which cannot change?
No. I'm also a computer, but something else is taking place. I'm unwilling to learn that any form of attachment must inevitably breed corruption, misery. And you ask, sir, why? Right?
Perhaps could you redefine the word corruption and the meaning you're using?
I mean by corruption what the word means. Rompere, to bake. Right? Can't somebody pick it up from me for a minute?
Well, you say it's it's the beginning of breaking up, this attachment. But it's not clear what's being broken up. And a lot of this talk has said, rather than find it's a good thing to break things up, because apparently we're the slaves of sin.
Let me put it differently. All right, sir. You ask why attachment leads to various forms of disturbance. Right?
Well, I mean, I asked specifically in the context of the attachment to the sorrow of memory, that particular example.
All right. Let's go into that. I've created the image of my son, and I'm attached to that image. Well, the image is unreal. Right?
Well, it's a real image.
Huh?
It's a real image, and it corresponds to a real son that did exist.
But it is not actual.
So you're saying that, well, why isn't it actual? I mean, if you experience it as an image, you're saying it's only a real image.
I have memory of my childhood, if I have, an image of being very happy at that time, and that image is pursuing that I have been happy and I am not now happy and I hope I'll be happy.
Is the image saying that?
Huh?
The image might just be saying I was happy in my childhood. That's a memory.
Yes.
Does it necessarily imply anything more than that?
Why should I carry that memory? Why should it continue?
You mean, why should you dwell upon it and think about it? And we can't avoid having memory.
Now this raises quite a different problem, sir.
Sir, it seems one of the problems with any image is that it's incomplete. And because it's incomplete, if I remember my childhood as being very happy and only very happy, it's actually a distortion of what really took place.
Explain to me.
And as long as I am operating on that as a memory, I'm operating on something that just wasn't so.
You may remember a particular happy instance. You may remember a particularly unhappy instance. I mean, it seems to me we can't avoid remembering things. We can avoid dwelling on memories and thinking about them. Is this what you're saying, Mr. Benson?
Would you talk louder, sir, because you can't hear.
We can avoid dwelling on memories, perhaps, or thinking about them. We can't avoid having them. Memory is part of our nature.
Part of our nature.
But it is possible that those memories represent a distortion of the original thing, that they are selective.
Well, of course they are. I mean, memory has to be selective. We can't remember the whole of our past all the time, or at one instant. We can only remember So the attention to memory is inevitably selective. And no doubt memory involves a certain amount of distortion, but that's, again, something we have to live with. Nothing we can do about it. We can't chop off memories, sure.
I think perhaps there's a suggestion also that memories become burdens.
Well, presumably memories can become burdens, but they needn't become burdens, sure.
But they generally do become burdens.
Do they? I mean, there are several kinds of memory, surely. There's all our experience with which we react to work is based on some kinds of memory. All the skills we have, like riding bicycles and playing pianos and doing mathematical sums, very useful skills, are based on training, conditioning, and memory.
Yes, but those are sort of factual memories. When I learn how to add, it's a factual memory. But when I think about some terrible thing that happened to me 20 years ago, a hurt, and I've carried it all my life, then I'm carrying a burden all my life.
I think that the specific thing that was being talked about was an image of a person.
Yes.
If I think that, if I have an image of myself and I think I am that, or my son was that, it's probably a distortion of the reality that the person was probably much more complex, and one would choose to remember only the nice parts or only the parts that were convenient.
Well, the answer might be to have a better memory.
Louder so they can't hear.
Isn't it that whether the memory is pleasant or unpleasant, isn't there the factor that one is acting out of an unreality, which is an image? The son is dead. The happy or unhappy childhood is gone, and yet it continues to generate a certain action psychologically within us or in our actual actions, which is based on a phantom, as it were, an idea and not a fact of that moment.
Yes, I find it rather difficult to grasp the idea of facts that are really, the idea that the real world's really there. The only things that really there, things that are actually present to your senses. Whereas an image or a memory is not real, seems to be a strange distinction.
Well, they have their own reality, obviously. If I thought I was Napoleon, that would be very real to me, and it would be a fact for me. But it would still be, in a way, a phantom.
But a memory of what you yourself did is not a phantom, it's a memory of what you did. And to call it a phantom doesn't have a subtract effect, it's a memory.
Would I possibly have a go at this one?
Go ahead.
It seems to me that images and memories are very important, very useful, and in fact essential to us being human beings. But the trouble with the memories and the images is that they tend to be over-obtrusive and block our capacity for open seeing of the state of affairs.
That's also quite
present
right.
time.
There's conditioning yourself, psychological memories. If I'm meeting you for the first time, never met you before, and you're in a hurry and you're rude to me, that memory, I will have that memory next time I'm meeting you, and I will have a distance to you because you were rude to me yesterday. But I'm running in the forest, I'm standing over a tree or branch. Next year I see that tree, I don't react to that tree, I don't have a bad memory of that tree. I don't know why that's such a difference between those kind of memories.
I'd like to suggest that computers help us to understand what a memory is. In a computer, it has to have a view of the outside world.
I think Dr. Wilkins had made it very clear. I don't see what it
Is there a point that, this whole question is that we're here now, physically, and like we're not totally with the potential of this moment, because we're all still, locked in various memories, of the past. So that, we're not sort of, that's the corruption.
So if your brain is occupied with memories, burdened with memories all the time, it's not really...
Louder, please.
I feel that if Ji, to live present, so it's not empty, to to its full potential. So it's burden.
Would you say, sir, the whole of me is memory?
I don't think I'd go that far, no.
Why not? Just wait. Why not?
I think there's a certain structure to the way we order our memories, which is not contained within the memory of specific events or things, nor can it be made simply out of a composite of past events. I think there's a certain structure to thought and structure to experience which exists before me, before specific memories of specific events.
Yes. If I'm a carpenter, I have that memory.
Yes, but there's also...
Just make sure. If I'm married, I have all the memories of my relation with my wife. If I'm with my son, I have all those memories. And the memories of my father, the memories of my country, the tradition of the country, the aspirations, the hurts, the arrogance, all that vast quantities of memory is me. So I am memory.
But not only memory.
Huh?
Not only memory.
Wait. I won't say not only. I only know I am memory. The tradition, the religion, the superstition, the illusions. I am a Brahmana and nobody, I won't touch it. I have all that tremendous memories inherited and I am all that.
Yes.
Just wait. So then you're saying there's also a memory and not all that.
I don't think it's a memory that one's not all that. I think there's a present sense that one's not all that.
That may be also illusion.
It may be. It may
So
not.
I'm not criticizing, we're just saying so.
Recipe to say that. Just
So my illusion is my memory.
Is it?
Isn't it?
You mean, I don't see which illusion you're thinking about now. I mean, the illusion, are you saying that the illusion that I exist now, I have access to memories, I'm conditioned by memories, and yet there's a sense of existing here and now, in the present, which isn't itself a memory.
So I've been told from childhood there is something in me which is totally different from all things outside. That's part of my memory. There is memory that there is God in me, which is, etc., etc. So that's also a memory. So from what I have observed, I have an entire structure of memory. Even though I say there is something in me which is totally different from all this. And I carry this memory all along my life. As Dr. pointed out, it's a tremendous burden. There's no freedom in that. That's why I'm not...
Is it not true to say, Krishnaji, that this memory, the store of memories that you have only constitute a burden if you allow them to interrupt your further development and your further progress and your further understanding?
All that memory is my image of myself.
But your statement, you said...
Huh?
Your statement...
Still thinking, I thought...
Your statement when you said, all I know is memory.
And the image that memory is created. I am that memory.
That suddenly stops me in my tracks because I don't know where to go from there.
Wait, I don't go anywhere from there. You see, you want to go somewhere, I don't. I say I'm all memory. I'm looking at the extraordinary fact.
Do you mean, Krishnaji, that the I, the me, the center that is watching the memory is memory too?
Of course. I don't want to go way beyond this extraordinary revelation to me. To realize, my God, I'm all memory. The image about myself as somebody being something or other is still an image, a memory. So I say, all right, let's look. Am I looking at, wait a minute, am I looking at it as an outsider looking in? You follow what I mean? Or I am that. The observer is that. The observer is the observed in this case. So I say I see the fact, it may be illusory, I'm subject to correction, but I say I'm all that, so I won't move from there. As if I move, it would be another memory. She will all say to us, what shall I do next? I don't want to do anything next. Because if I do, it will be still born out of memory, and the action will be part of memory and back again the same cycle.
And that is the burden of some.
No, just a minute, don't see, that's what I am. I've learned mathematics, I've learned biology, I've learned science, I've learned dozen things. All that learning is memory.
But in place of that, there is the
What?
freezing of the learning.
What?
In place of all that, there is the freezing of the learning. We freeze the moment.
I am nothing but that. I am the observer, the observed. I'm all that. See, that's what I mean. If I can stay with it and see what happens, we don't. What happens when I realize that the division between the observer and the observed is illusory, therefore all movement stops. I don't know this. What do you say, sir?
Well, I'm wrestling with the idea. I think that the sense that one is more than that comes from feeling one has choice and the capacity to act. And I think that the feeling that one has the choice to act in different ways gives one the idea that there's a doer, which is not just a conditioned memory, which can choose and select among memories, and that there is a centre which is more than memory. Now you're telling me that centre that says it's doing is more than memory is in fact only a memory
Yes,
itself.
sir.
I don't know if I accept that or not.
No,
It doesn't
don't
seem
accept
like
it.
that to me.
Don't let's accept
You might
it.
be able to prove it to me, but
No.
intellectually that's not how it feels.
It may be my conditioning, say I'm not that.
And it may not be that. We may have a direct intuition in how it really is, which is not a matter of conditioning.
Nah.
I think one other thing, I'm worried by the fact that we're all sitting here listening to what you're saying and we are thinking about it.
That's right, sir. You've hit the nail on the head.
You started to tell us, Krishnaji, how it was that sorrow led to corruption, and we seem to have become diverted into talking about memories and images.
So corruption is the image.
Or is it complete?
The question is there an end to sorrow? Man has suffered, right, for a million years. and we're still suffering.
And you're saying that insight is the end of sorrow, and insight has nothing to do with memory.
That's right.
But then, can I ask, how is this insight possible if we're nothing but memory?
To stop moving from that fact.
That means we fully have to understand that
No,
memory
no,
is...
there is nothing to understand. There is nothing to understand. There is no action. Non-action is positive action.
But if somebody's pointing out to me that all I am is memories, and I've never heard that before, say that suggestion.
How do you listen to that? Just take that for a minute. How do you listen to it? It may be a silly statement. It may be a true statement. How do you listen to it? Are you listening or are you arguing?
I think one thinks about it.
Huh?
One thinks about it.
Therefore, you're not listening. I'm telling you, well, I'm not sure. I'm telling someone I love you. You don't say, I'll think about it. I love you. And you might say, why do you love me? I say, I don't know, I just love you. I have no cause. I don't want anything from you. Your body, your sex, your money, nothing. I don't want anything from you. I just love you.
But it seems that instead of the mind stopping, the mind goes...
Therefore, please, if I come to you and tell you, I love you, do you think about it? You throw it back at me because you say I'm married already.
A better analogy would be if you came to me and said, you love me, because you said you are all memory, and a better analogy to that is if you say you love me. I actually would think about that. I would think, is it true? What does it mean? All that kind of thing. If you said I love you, that's a different kind of statement.
That's all I'm saying. It has no cause. Memory has a cause. Love is not memory.
No.
Exactly so. It's not desire, it's not pleasure. So as there's no cause, it's enormous. And memory says, what do you mean by it? Tell me all about it. You follow? Let's wallow in it.
But I don't know, if one wants to think, I mean, I would have agreed, after hearing for the last hour that we have to be so worried that everything we do is an illusion and conditioning, then I might begin to think, oh, well, maybe love's just a natural conditioning. We've seen all these films and read about it and had sermons about it. So I could easily doubt that. And you might tell me that it's just, I've been inclined to think that love is something that exists and it isn't just memory. But now I'm beginning to think, well, maybe that's memory too. We're all conditioned in our terrible educational process.
Sir, wait just a minute. I come to you and say I love you. Do you think about it?
I might think, I might wonder what you meant by it.
I'll tell you what I mean by it. I love you. I don't want your money. I don't want a thing from you. And I mean it.
Then I would accept that gratefully as a fact.
What?
I would accept it gratefully as a fact.
You accept it. then you don't think about it.
But with this other thing, that all I am is memories.
No, wait a minute. I'll come back to that. I say I love you.
But I might wonder why.
I've stated it. I don't want a thing from you.
No, I could accept that as a fact, that this is a fact, but I might still think about it in the sense that I might think, what is this love that can...
I go into it with you. I say it has absolutely nothing to do with desire. With pleasure. I'm not even attached to you. I love you.
But there is only love when there is no return to me.
Huh?
There is only love when there is no return to me.
When I say I love you, it means I love. It's not I love you. You follow, don't let's mix up with the word I and you.
There seems to be something very simple at the end of it.
What?
There seems to be something very simple at the end of it. But there's an irresistible force.
You see, that's what... We're also very clever, that's what it is. We don't... A man comes to me, he says to me, I love you. What an extraordinary thing when he says, I don't want a thing from you.
It doesn't seem to be very meaningful if he just says that.
I mean it. I don't want a thing from you.
But it seems if you say to someone, I love you, you're expecting some form of response. Otherwise you wouldn't say that, unless you say it in the same way as you would say to anyone, I love you, in that you love everybody perhaps. But if you say it to an individual, there must be some particular reason for it.
So you see, you attach reason to love.
No, I think that what one could say is that one could accept love as something which is not necessarily part of memory. There might be a reason for saying it. I think that's what he's saying.
Yes.
You might love somebody. You might not feel any reason to say it necessarily, but you might, if they seem disturbed and worried and so on, you might think it would help them to actually to say it. So you might have a reason for saying it. That may not be the same as your reason. There may not be a reason for loving it.
Yes,
It may just be a fact.
yes, I understand all that.
If love is not
But
memory, what is love?
What?
If love is not memory, what is love? Where does it come from?
If love is not...
It's not memory. You're saying we are all memory.
Yes.
Well,
Love has nothing to do with memory.
Yeah, well, where does it come from?
Of course, if it has, what does it mean? Desire, pleasure, fear, attachment, all that is we generally accept as love.
It seems to me that we are talking about memory all the time. It seems that 100%.
You see, sir, that's right, sir. I beg your pardon, I'm talking to myself.
100% of our time is memory, but it is not so to me, I think. We are the small fractions in time when we realize a problem, something when we have an idea. In that very, very minute moment, it seems not to be a memory for me. Is it? I don't know.
But we all seem to deal with it in this general structure of memories, making it complicated. Sometimes somebody says something simple, and we seem to want to complicate it. Most of the time, it appears to work that way.
Sir, you were asking us.
No, I'm not asking anything.
All right. Well, you were saying when something is said, like "I love you," do you just listen to it? And you said, and you talked about sorrow. Can you just? I mean, there's one.
Sir, look now, Scott. Just a minute. I've known you for some years. We've talked to each other considerably. And one day, one morning, I come to you, when you're in my room, I said, no, Scott, I love you. What happens to you? What actually happens to you when I say that to you? You say, let me think.
No. First,
why do you love me?
First, there's just a listening.
What happens to you when a man comes to you and says, I love you? And I say, I don't want a thing from you.
Well, it's very humbling.
Huh?
It's very humbling. One listens, and one hears it, and one reacts, however one reacts.
How do you react?
One takes it in.
Huh?
Takes it in.
Yeah, what does that mean? No, wait a minute, what does that mean, takes it in?
Like an arrow. It gets warm, it gets burning.
Don't you have a feeling when somebody tells you that?
One will be pleased.
Huh?
One will be pleased.
Say thank you.
Is that all?
I love you too.
Huh?
That's a response. Normal response. If there is
I
a
think
mutual
it's quite
feeling.
a shock, isn't it? Because usually when somebody says that to you, implied in it is that they want something in return. And usually when you say that to another person, you want something in return. So if there's a...
So you're all thinking in terms of something to return?
I would be nonplussed.
Huh?
I would feel quite nonplussed.
Has anybody come and told you that they love you?
Not like that.
In listening, in trying to listen to what you've been saying, about if somebody says to me, I love you, I've had an insight into this whole dialogue now. There's just an understanding in silence. There's nothing more to it. There's nothing more to it. There's just a silence, and there's an understanding in the silence when there is a listening without thinking.
It is a feeling to be one.
So what place has memory and love?
It depends what kind of love you're talking about, because, and in what language you consider the meaning of the word love. If you
Yeah,
say
I'm
it in
speaking
French, for
English.
example, well, in English, because in English you love coffee, you love your dog,
Of
and
course,
you love your
I
wife.
love coffee, I love my ground, I love my wife, I love my job. We're not talking of that kind of love, are we?
But there may be some connection between love and memory, a certain implicit connection. There must be, because you tell me you love me, and
What an extraordinary audience this is.
But if I love you and I don't want you to fall over something, I act on you. I say, don't go
Yes.
there.
Yes.
But there must be some connection then, because I remember that that's dangerous. Or maybe.
So if somebody came to me and said, I love you, I don't want a thing from you, huh? It has done something tremendous to me. Nobody has said that to me before. They always wanted something out of it. Either my body or my sex or my money or my something or other they wanted. And here you come along and tell me, look, I love you, but I don't want a thing from you. What a tremendous thing it makes. You understand what it do to me? So, what relationship has that love to memory? If you say, I'll think about it, then you're back.
So it has no relationship. If that is the case.
Well, it's based on a conception of the you, the one that is loved, which is surely constructed, put together by memory, by experience of the person, by evaluation of qualities, and perceiving that person as an unique individual, and therefore discriminating qualities and virtues in them.
I think there's a commonality of consciousness.
And also love has no choice. I must go into all that. If you say, how will it act? You say, yes, all right. You say, I love you. I said, all right, old boy, what do you do about it? Right? I said, I can't answer, I don't know. I just love you. I'll see what happens. But if you say, what will you do when you love me? Then what's your reply? Obvious. Give me something. No,
I think that if you say that it would give one a strong feeling for the universal consciousness of humanity, I think this is the kind
Yes,
of
sir.
effect it would
Yes,
have
sir.
on me.
Yes, sir.
Krishnaji,
You
I can
become
only talk
the
about.
Huh?
You really become the other. One disappears and becomes the other.
I don't know. That's a theory, please.
No, it's no theory.
Maybe,
Just
I-
watching it operate. Just
Krishnaji, I just want to talk about the atmosphere in this room. I mean, there's basis of love here. We are not falling apart or ripping each other. It is just a feeling here.
No, and that's not important, but where are we now?
Sir, I'd like to ask what happens if there's no you to tell me that you love me?
Find somebody.
If I tell you what happens to me, if somebody came and told me really this, I can't tell you what happens. Then you will say, what is that? Let me capture it, let me decide it. We are off into something. Tell me.
No, I meant, sir, what happens when there's no one, when one is by oneself?
That is, has love to be told to somebody, I love you?
Yeah, that is the question.
I'm saying this, sir. Have I? Suppose you have love. I won't discuss it. It's too silly.
Before we get too far,
What's that?
before we get too far, I'd like to pose a very obvious question here. Since the topic has been the topic of education the last 2 days, if we have to create an educational environment, would we include in the content of that education all this that we've been discussing
Yes, sir.
yesterday and today?
Yes, sir. How am I going to convey all that we have discussed so far to my son, I'm an educator, how am I going to convey all this to him? He comes to the school already conditioned. Right? He's already using terrible words and violence. He's like the rest of us already.
Like us, yes.
So what am I to do? What's my relationship to him? Am I also like him or like the rest? Or I've seen something which I want to transmit to him. Will he listen? Will he play the game with me?
Will that transmission mode be the same as this one?
Perhaps.
Or one-to-one?
Yes, maybe, or it all depends. So if you feel very strongly about something, that feeling of vitality, that feeling, intense feeling, is communicated. But if you're merely intellectually discussing about education and all that, you know.
And it doesn't have to be just the verbal communication.
What is non-verbal communication? Thought transference?
Actually living.
Yes, sir. If I don't live what I'm talking about, what value has it? What is the point of talking about it?
Becomes theory.
Then there's a feeling, there's a... Suppose, sir, I'm absolutely, irrevocably non-nationalist, non-tribal. And my student is full of that. Right? What's my relationship to it? He wants to be completely British or French or some other rot. He wants to be completely that. And I'm totally opposed to that. What happens?
At first there is conflict.
No. I'm immovable, but he's movable. Sorry.
That doesn't create conflict?
What do you say? Please, let's discuss.
It creates conflict in me because, you know, I may have a feeling for what you're saying and I want to get there. Or have some.
Well, first of all, I'll show him the instruction nationalism has called.
There's something more than that, isn't it?
You've got to show him that you understand why he takes this attitude.
Of course, I go into all that, but I stand where you follow. I am immovable, but he is movable.
What if he is immovable also?
Then we are together.
But it's not for me to move him.
Huh?
It's not for me to move him.
No.
You mean you are not strengthening his conditioning anymore because you're moving?
No, sir. You are, say for instance, you are free from conditioning. And I am come to you as your student, full of conditioning. To you, it is an absolute reality, burning reality. And to me, I face you. I begin to criticize you. I say, what nonsense, sir, etc., etc. But you explain to me step by step the rationality of war, creative part of war, nationalism. And I begin to, if I'm at all intelligent, absorb what you are saying. You're not talking to me only at conscious level, but you're also talking to me at the deeper levels.
Yes, I was just going to ask, if in sharing a perception of something that one sees as true, is there a lot of this sharing or communicating that goes on despite the words or despite the subject?
Obvious,
If
much.
one is looking at something.
It's 1 o'clock, we better stop. Meet tomorrow morning, don't we? Isn't it at 11?
No,
Huh?
no, 11:30.
11:30.